back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Gillian Segal, owner of Gillian Segal Design, is with me. Gillian reached out to me explaining how she attributes much of the success that she has had due to the community that she has cultivated. After she got her certificate in interior design, she spent time working with some of Vancouver's top design firms before going out on her own. But as she describes it, she isn't out on her own, and she knows it, and she likes it that way. In addition to her own tight-knit, supportive team of 6 ladies, Gillian Segal has taken the time to intentionally build relationships, and this has made all the difference to her and her business. And talking about community and relationships, don't forget we have Inside Voice, Outside Voice coming Thursday, September 1st. We, in this particular Inside Outside Voice, are going to be talking about being prepared for economic changes, whether that be slumps, spikes, all the things. Do you know how to be nimble in your business? Do you know how the triage works and what the steps are? Well, I've been around the block a few times and I have some ideas for you that you can take back to your business so that you can navigate the next year to 18 months like a pro. Go to InsideVoiceOutsideVoice.com to sign up for this Zoom event. This month is sponsored by LuAnn University, and our donation will go to Adopt a Classroom. The ticket price is just $36, and half of every ticket I donate to the charity. So let's help out you and your business, and let's help some kids at this back-to-school time. Like I said, Adopt a Classroom is who the donations will be going to. So I look forward to seeing you there. And remember, these events are not recorded. This is live with me in real time. All right, let's meet Gillian. Hey, Gillian, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm delighted to have you, Gillian. I want to give a shout out to Erin, who works for you, who I think is who turned you on to our podcast, right?
It is. She'll be very excited at the name drop. She's a huge fan, and we all consume your content at the office. So it's exciting to actually be a guest on the show today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you make sure you tell Erin thank you from me.
I will.
Thanks.
She'll be thrilled. It's her birthday today, too.
No
so
way. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
What a fun coincidence. All right. Happy birthday to her, too, then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys put together some information for me, and you said that the number one thing that was important to you, Gillian, to talk to your peers in this community that we have here is the importance of developing community. And I love the different things that you wrote to me and that your philosophy on it. And so open it up for us, Gillian, and talk to us about what does it mean for you about in this sense of developing community.
Well, I think it can mean so many different things. I mean, I look at my community within my business as my community and culture within my firm. I look at it as my community with my clients. And then I also look at it as my community with our partners and vendors and people who are helping us through all these projects. And then, there's sort of the community of our peers and other designers, which is one reason I love your show. But I think that community of having other like-minded peers to help you and support you and laugh about crazy stories and coach you through hard times is also important. So yeah, when I think about what has brought me success in my business over the last 6 years, I think it's all those different communities that I've been nurturing over the last 6 years.
I love that. And of course, I'm 100% in agreement with you with the, everything is about the relationships that we build and what we pour into them and the way they come back to us. And so, talk to me about start first with the community in your own company. So, I understand that it's yourself and 6 employees that you have there at your design firm. Talk to me about how is the principal, are there certain things that you do that you are have been instrumental in helping you develop a community and a culture within your own company?
Yeah, so it's myself and six, as you mentioned. We're currently an all-female team. And when I tell people that, I think they're like, oh, there must be a lot of drama. But it's actually the opposite. Something I'm really proud of is that we have an incredibly tight-knit, supportive team. And I think even though I'm the founder and the principal designer, I think you're only as good as your team. It's definitely, I say design is a team sport because it definitely takes a village. And we just we're a very close team. I think, hiring and finding talent is such a skill in and of itself. And then managing people and keeping employees happy is also a skill in and of itself. And it's something that you don't learn in design school or in university. So that's been really important to me in just building this very collaborative, supportive environment. And, I have 2 young kids at home. So for me, when I come to the office and come to work, I want this to be selfishly a really happy place to come, but then also a really supportive and inspiring place to be for my team. So that's what we have, I think, right now, which is really great. And when we're looking to bring on new people, I always say to them in the interview, having your resume and experience and the skill set is really only half of what I'm looking for. The other half of what I'm looking for is someone who is a cultural fit and can be a team player and who can really contribute to this super positive and supportive work environment that we have, because it's delicate and I'm very protective of it. And I think that that's what brings us success with our clients and all of our partners and kind of our community in a whole. I think they feel that we're also passionate about what we're doing. We all love our jobs, and there's a lot of support within the office.
So I love everything that you're saying here, okay? But I want to ask a couple of questions in the particulars there. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, is how did you learn to be an owner, a CEO that does develop and foster this protective and supportive environment among all the people that you work there? Did you have a career before this? Did you come from another job where it was exemplified for you? How did you come to that, Gillian?
That's a really good question. So design was definitely my first career type job, but I, started working when I was 12 or 13 and have always had a job ever since then. So I've worked in a number of different jobs, and I've worked in some environments that were supportive and some that were not. And I think having those negative or more negative experiences in some ways has really taught me what I don't want within a company. And then also within running my own business, when you start your own business, it's kind of learning by trial and error. And, I've haven't always had the perfect team. And, we've gone through uh, different employees and different versions of the team. And I have really felt a difference from when we have this great sort of synergy among everyone and when that's not there, and how, the projects suffer, the clients suffer, and I personally suffer because it's not enjoyable to be in the workplace when there's, tension or someone who's not a team player, and it just creates a negative dynamic that I think takes away from what we're all here trying to accomplish.
It's funny because in my, 4 decades of experience in running a company, I also know the moments when the team is or isn't right. And right now, I'm
Mhm.
very lucky in all of our companies. It's like, oh, yeah, everybody fits. And that is, it feels like a unicorn sometimes. In my experience, when we haven't had that feeling, like you just described, you know the difference of when it isn't all cohesive. I I usually can identify that I have compromised on a hire because our back was against the wall, or I've made a hire that I thought was the right one, but found out that they weren't and didn't let them go fast enough. And it starts to creep into, and what I found in my experiences in the past, because the fit wasn't good, but maybe the work product was adequate and there was nothing egregious and it was just the culture fit that wasn't good. In the past, younger, I ignored that longer than I should. And now I know when I ignore that, it's hurting the people who are doing terrific work product and are a good fit. But it's a tough thing to look at and do. So what when you think back to when your team wasn't just fitting just the way, right, and the way the difference when you have it now, can you identify how what went wrong and how you got into a situation with the wrong team members? Can you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been combinations of things, but I think you hit the nail on the head with like letting, I think deep down your gut knows something's off, and you usually know what it is or who it is. And it's not that they're a bad person, but
Right.
it's just so the fit or the personality fit or whatever it is just not there. And um, for me, I think when I was just starting out, my biggest mistake was something you also mentioned, which was holding on too long.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, who also runs a business and has way more employees reporting to him than I do, has been such a great resource to me,
Mm.
and coach to me. And he always says, hire slow, fire fast. And
Yes.
that's really easy to say and much
Mm.
harder to do, particularly in a small firm where we are all women and, you know, we become very close
Mm-hmm.
and it is like family. And I develop friendships, very close friendships with my employees. And so that initially made it really difficult for me to let go, even when I knew it was the right thing for the business. Personally, it was a challenge. But I did learn the hard way that holding on just, it is damaging for the whole team. And it's like a set of dominoes and it just is not great. So over the last few years, when I've hired and for whatever reason, no, it's off, is like cutthroat as it sounds, I um, try and just make the change as quickly as I
Mm.
can, because
Mm.
I now know from experience that holding on isn't doing anyone any favors, even if you're like, well, we're going to be short staffed and whatever.
You could tell yourself a lot of
I
crazy
actually,
stuff,
yeah,
right?
I definitely feel like sometimes like having the wrong person is worse than having
Mm.
no person. So,
Well, that's what you end
um,
up learning. That at least that's what. And I'm hats off to you. You learned it in 6 years. I certainly didn't learn it in 6 years. I can tell you that. Because you do. You convince yourself. Oh my goodness. There's this little part exactly as you said. There's this little, your inside voice. She does not lie. The goddess voice does not lie, and she's there saying,
no,
"This isn't right. Let this person go. Like great person, not right fit. Blah blah blah." Right. And the thing is, but there's this other person that's saying, oh, but you know what? Then there's going to be so much more work that falls onto the other team members. But here's the voice that has to be the loudest. The team members would rather that person gone too. And it's bringing them down on the day to day. And they'd rather do, X amount of more work for the interim and do it in a happy environment where they're not like, that person is there. and what
I
I,
totally
right?
agree.
And what I learned
And
is the really insidious part of it, you tell me if you agree, is rarely is it such a bold thing. The bold misfit, the bold egregious not getting the work done, that we can deal with. We own our companies. We can walk up and say, you know what, you're out of here. You're not performing. You're not this. But it's that little, like, not so good, not so bad. That's the one that's just I'm amazed that in 6 years' time you've developed that muscle.
Yeah, no, well, it's yeah, I've definitely learned the lessons that way, and I'm lucky that I've had my husband to kind of lean
Mm,
on for his decades of experience. But the other thing I've found through this, and maybe I just tell myself this to make myself feel better, but I don't think so, is that when you're as the business owner or the team feeling like something is off with one person, like, or the work product isn't great, usually that person is actually feeling it too, and
mm,
maybe they're not happy in the job, or
mm.
maybe it's not the right fit for them. And even if they want the job or need the job, I've had some conversations where I've, let someone go and they've said, actually, I kind of was feeling the same thing. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't working. And I don't think that that was a comment to save face. I think
Right.
it's genuinely like it is a two-way street. And I think often when, if someone who was performing great no longer is performing great, I mean, sometimes they may not be happy in the position either, or the way their role has progressed, or they thought they might have been further along, or they realized, I've had young designers come in and they think it's going to be all creative and mood boards, and they realize it's actually a lot of paperwork and admin. And, so I think that there is kind of a two-way street there too, that if you're feeling something's off or you notice something's off in the team, like that person also may not be happy.
I agree. I agree. It's so funny because one of the recently about I guess about I don't know, maybe it's about a year ago at this point, but I actually made the move within 3 weeks. I was like,
Wow.
great person. Yeah, because I had just gone through another hire that I had hung on for 4 or 5 months, which was,
Yeah.
3 or 4 months too long. And now I had
Yeah.
a new one, and it was 3 weeks in, and I spent every day of the third week going, you got to let her go. You got to let her go. And I'm like, my goodness, LuAnn, it's only 3 weeks, like maybe. But the things that were happening and the way, the whole thing, the work product and the culture fit, the whole thing. And I'm just like, are you really going to do this again? Like, are you going to like go out on your podcast and talk this talk and not walk this walk, lady? Like, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And so I, came in the morning and asked her to come in early to meet me before the other employees, got here. And to your point, it was exactly what happened. I just said, I'm not feeling like this is a fit. I have to say, I can tell you from my perspective, it does not feel like a fit. I feel like the work product is not where I expected it would be based on your experience. And just the day to day doesn't feel like it's hitting a groove. And you know what she did? And I just stopped talking. You know what she did? She goes, oh, thank God, me too.
There we go. Case in point.
Right? And I'm like, oh my God. And I just bust out laughing. I'm like, wait, the two of us would have probably done this for another 2 months to each other, right? But,
Yeah.
to your
No.
point, she was not saving face. She was miserable too and just felt this, like she felt the same way. I'm like, I going to give up on her in 3 weeks. She's like, I'm going to give up on this in 3 weeks. But
Well, I'm sure she was super stressed out, and it
yes,
doesn't feel good when you're not
yes.
performing,
A
Yeah.
100%. Well, that was the other thing she did say to me. It was so funny because then we spent about half hour just talking about it, very loose and very like open because it was done, like, right. And
Yeah.
she said to me when at one point she said, I got to tell you, she goes, managing your schedule, she goes, I have worked for VPs at Goldman Sachs. She says, I just can't wrap my brain around it. I was like, it was pretty funny. So, but
That's
I
so
also think
funny.
that is, when you have an experience like that, you've already had that experience. It sounds like when you've let someone go and then you could see truly that they were also unhappy, even though they weren't coming in every day and telling you, hey, I'm miserable here. Once you have that, it also gives you the courage to do it the next time. Because to your point, it's neither of you are usually happy in that situation. And it's funny because my cousin Eileen Hahn talks about this all the time. She's like on this mission for everybody, every single human on the planet to be working in the job they were born to do. And in fact, she wrote a book with that title because she just has had such a wide breadth and depth of experience in organizational behavioral consulting that she just says, for everybody involved, when all the people are in the right seats and they want to be there and they're happy there, the place just hums. And so, wow, 6 years you learned that lesson.
I'll need to read that book. That sounds like a
Yes.
good one.
Yes, I'll
But
put we'll put the link in the show notes for it because it really is a good one. So, okay, so I
Please
love all
do.
that, and that's so awesome, and it's, encouragement for all of our friends listening to really just understand that it is so important and there is a huge difference, even if it's just you and one other person that works for you. If it doesn't feel right, A, you don't want to go into work every day unhappy, and B, it probably isn't right for them either. So, love it. Now, we're going to.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is that like we all go through ups and downs and we don't know what's going on in all of our employees' personal lives and things like that. And so I think another part of the community component to this and why the culture component is so important to me is just having a space that is open and honest and very, inviting and supportive, is that when people are unhappy with something, I feel like they feel like it's a safe space that they can come to me and talk about it, even if it's like crying about their recent breakup. Because then I know, and I think having regular touch points with your employees of just saying like, hey, it's been a few months since we sat down and had a coffee or a glass of wine. Like, let's book in a time and just have a check-in.
That's nice. That's smart.
So,
It's smart because
yeah.
you're right. Because sometimes your A team is, somebody on the A team is feeling a little off and is not performing or doesn't feel the same, but it doesn't mean that the job fit is wrong or something. It could be in their own life and they need some space and some grace and some understanding to get through it, right?
Totally.
Love it. And so, what do you do? What's the rhythm of the business like, Gillian, in that, the actual touch points within the week or the month that contribute to this culture of support and feeling protected? Do you have weekly standing meetings with the whole team? Like, what are some of the things that you do? Because you have friends, colleagues listening. They're like, okay, I want that too. How do I do it?
Yeah, so every Monday we try and have a meeting in the morning, like an all hands meeting with the whole team. And we just kind of do a major touch point of going through everyone's projects. I mean, how we run things in my company is that each senior designer manages their own jobs, which I'm involved in and am working on the creative with them, but they're really managing the projects and doing the day-to-day. So everyone sort of has their own projects. But that being said, we're a small team and everyone knows about everyone else's projects. And when one person, needs extra support, the rest of the team can jump in and assist. But so yeah, Mondays we have this sort of all hands meeting where we just go around person to person, talk about sort of a brief project update on every project. And then we sort of prioritize what are the firm's priorities this week. Maybe it's so-and-so's project, or maybe it's this other person's install. And then we look, okay, how can we as a team support these firm priorities? Maybe one of our other senior designers has a quieter week and can jump in and be an extra set of hands. So that's one thing we do that's been super helpful. And then we always end the week with a team happy hour Friday afternoons. We open a bottle of wine, and sometimes we'll save like a fun creative task that we chat about, or sometimes it's more of like a social hour thing, but just sort of having a chance for everyone to talk in a really casual setting of like, this was a good week, this was a bad week, sharing a resource that someone just learned, or sharing, something bad that happened and figuring out what we can take away from it. So I think those two things as just like a weekly regular occurrence have been huge in just creating this environment that feels supportive and everyone kind of knows what's going on. And then after these Monday morning meetings, I do sort of breakout sessions with each individual person, and we go like deeper into certain items. but we do have that, like, hour or so where everyone just kind of gets the top line items so that we're all aware of everything happening in the office and can kind of work together on achieving the goals.
I love this. I love this rhythm that you've got here. And of course, I have to tell you, it's funny because I don't know if it was a podcast episode I did recently or an article I did for AD Pro. There's so much content going out. I'm not sure where it goes half the time.
I already know your calendar's crazy. So.
But I can remember writing or recording. I don't know which one at this one. It's all melding together. But the things that I have learned that are common to the most successful firms. And when you're describing the weekly team meeting, followed by the weekly individual meeting and the Friday wrap up with the team, this is a repeated thing with those that I've interviewed that I know are running really, really good tight firms. So you could be a really, really good tight firm doing 500K, or you could be doing, 5 million. But certain things like this are the hallmarks of, I think, what your whole opening comment about this is creating a company culture that is supportive, collaborative, that, one senior is willing to jump in and help another senior designer because, there's this environment of cooperation and collaboration, and it does come through these types of things. And so I'm so glad to hear you say it. I had no idea what you were going to say, but when somebody says something that 10 other really super successful designers have told me that they do, I'm like, yep, this is the thing that works. So totally,
it really
totally
does.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, stuff happens in some weeks, maybe it's a crazy week or it's a short week or people are on holidays and we miss that Monday meeting. Like, I feel that by the end of the week, things feel scattered or disorganized and, it's just not clear. So I definitely, the weeks that we miss those, or even miss like the end of the week happy hour, it's, it sounds like a superficial thing, but I feel like it's just such a nice way everyone looks forward to it. We close out the week. And yeah, when those things don't happen, I do feel it for sure.
I love it. I love it. So good. So I can imagine similar principles, similar, ethics you're bringing to the relationships with your clients as far as, making sure that community is happening there. It's the communication, it's the touch points and all the things with your clients. Is that correct, Gillian?
Yeah, and it's just having not just the professional relationship, but the personal relationship. And I think it was even on your podcast, you may have interviewed a designer who was like, I never have a glass of wine with a client ever. Like, business is business and whatever, but I'm not of that camp. I'm of like some of my clients have become some of my closest friends because I think what we do with our clients is so intimate. I mean, we're talking about what's in their underwear drawer, who's sleeping in what bed. We're the first people to know about babies that are coming. I've been actually the first person to know about divorces and planning for second homes. So it is such an intimate thing, and it is so personal when you're designing someone's home. So I think knowing your clients and understanding them and having empathy for them is so important. So I think developing that with our clients, just like I feel it's important within my team, I think developing that with our clients is important, because then on a more like superficial level, we can understand, mentally where they're at. There's so much psychology with dealing with clients and people and family dynamics and relationship dynamics. So I think understanding them gives them a better experience and also makes our job easier.
So I have a question for you in that is I get it, right? Because it's just logical. If it makes sense that we build more meaningful relationships with our employees and it benefits them and us and the work product, that building more meaningful relationships with our clients, if this, then that. But how, and I know somebody out there is thinking, but how do you keep the line? Like, where are there, or do you not keep the line, but maybe, you have there has to be some parameters or boundaries or expectations that are known otherwise, how does it not cross to, oh, I'm expecting you to do that for free because we're girlfriends now, or some other crazy
Totally.
line?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, again, have learned some of these things the hard way, particularly actually working with close friends or working with family, and then they're texting you and calling you at all hours. And I've had clients do that too. I mean, look, not every client becomes my best friend.
Right,
It's
right.
just the reality. Um, and sometimes there's some not so great clients too. But I mean, in our contract, we do really try and outline like, here are our work hours. Here are the hours that you can text us. Here's the hours we'll respond to calls. Here's, how quickly we like to respond to emails. And so I think a big part of the client relationship component in everything, not just in the relationship aspect, but in the whole project, is just managing people's expectations. And saying like, look, this is when we're available for calls. This is when we're available for texts. And if someone is texting me like incessantly in the evening when it's, 8 p.m. about work stuff, I just leave it for the next day and respond to it then. Although, again, not everyone is like a perfect fit of a client, just like when you're hiring employees, which is why I think sort of interviewing your clients is also important. But I think for the most part, we've been really lucky. Again, there's always exceptions, and there has been exceptions, but really lucky to have people who I feel like we've established, this is how we operate. And then they're very respectful. Or sometimes if someone does have to text, they're like, I'm so sorry to be bothering you on the evening with a work question, but blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but, right. It's like, so
so-
sorry, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. No, but I think just trying to establish that from the get-go has definitely helped.
Well, I think if I were going to boil down what you just said there is, just because you have a feeling and an emotion toward them of friendship and they reciprocate that doesn't mean that the business ground rules go out the door. That's what I think I'm hearing. It's like I can be all warm and fuzzy and I can crack a bottle of champagne with you because we hit a milestone in the project, but that doesn't mean that, like my mom, you can call me at 8:30 at night. Like, it's still the rules of the business, and those we have to establish up front, right? Because if you don't establish them up front and then you sort of cross over into that relationship level and then you want to say, hey, don't text me at night, that feels probably very unkind and uncomfortable to the client. But if the client knew it from the beginning and you are the one that maintains that clarity, then you also can be your genuine warm self and lean into the friendship aspect. You agree with all that, Gillian?
I totally do. And I also think that just because, like, I'm generally a more casual person, and I do develop these relationships, but at the end of the day, they're paying us for a service, a professional service, and we maintain a very professional attitude towards all the work stuff. And I feel like the clients feel that and sort of meet us at that level. So even though we're super friendly and talking about, personal stuff as well, like at the end of the day, it still is a professional relationship. And if we want to go out for dinner and drinks on a social level, we'll do that, and we're not really talking about work. And it's sort of, work is work and friendship is friendship, and sometimes the two go together. But I think because we're dealing with things in a professional way, I think it's like a very subtle reminder of like, I'm not doing this as a favor and as your bestie. I'm doing this because you hired me for a service, and we're going to provide that service to you.
I love it. It's like you're establishing professional standards, you're exemplifying them. And that in itself is setting the tone for how they come back to you and deal with you on the other side of it. So that's really cool. I like that. Very, very smart. Okay, so we talk about the relationship. I mean, also the community, like you said, of your vendors and your trades, and then, of course, your designer peers. So what comes to mind when you think of those two communities?
With the vendors and trades, I mean, that's huge. Like we do so much custom work, bespoke things. We're working all over the place. And as you well know, the whole supply chain in the whole world is just a total disaster right now. But, I feel like with these relationships we've built by being good clients to our vendors and good partners to them, when we need a favor or we need, something done in a certain timeline, like they'll usually do us a favor and expedite something or whatever, because we've given them so much business, and we refer other designers to them, and we try to share our resources with other designers. And I feel like it is really building a partnership with people so that, we can really rely on our vendors, which ultimately gives the clients a good or bad experience. I mean, if we're telling them we're going to have them a custom sofa in 4 months and it comes in 8 months, they're not happy. And sometimes that happens because the world is crazy right now. But I think having these relationships of people we really can depend on to also give our clients great service, those people are reflecting on our business, even if they're not direct employees. So really having these people that we can trust is so important, even down to the people who are delivering the furniture and installing it. I mean, when we send someone, they're representing our brand. And so even though we can't always control the restoration hardware delivery guys who are super rude, when we can control those things, it's always, we're always trying to do it at a level that represents the brand and where the client is going to end up having a good experience. And without those relationships, or if you're like a pain in the ass, difficult designer to work with, these people aren't going to want to do their best things for you, and they're not going to care, at least in my opinion. So having partners with amazing vendors is super important. And then on the peer side of things, I just feel like having friends who are designers, whether it's like, I have a lot of designer friends I've met over Instagram, and we started with DMing each other, and then we started texting each other, and now we have phone calls when one person's going through like a sticky situation or something like that. And I feel like having that support as a business owner is just invaluable, because it can be lonely when you're the one making the decisions. And sometimes it's really nice to know, I mean, it's not like a misery loves company kind of thing, but it kind of is at the same time. It's just really nice to have people who are going through the same challenges and who can offer what they've tried, share notes on things that have worked really well, or say like, hey, this guy, I'll text them and say, hey, I'm doing a project in LA. Who should I work with? And they'll be like, stay away from these people. These people are amazing. So I feel like just having that community as well has been such an invaluable tool for me.
I love it. And, going back to the vendor and trade thing, having had experience both as the supplier, like the vendor partner to interior designers, but then also having my vendors and trades that I turn around and order things from. I always, what I can look back on, if there is a single habit that has yielded the most positivity in the relationship both ways, to the design, from Window Works to the designer and from us to our different vendors, is truth, is honesty. I mean, because there's nothing that will damage a relationship faster for me is, when a designer says, I really need this on the 12th because there's, a baby shower on the 13th. And we had this, I mean, it still sticks in my craw. It's like 2.5 years ago. And
not like you're holding a grudge.
No, not like I am. Not at all. But like we move heaven and earth. It's a 2.5 hour away install. The designer knew I was changing things around to do this, and still accepted the delivery and had us go on the Thursday before. And we get there, and there isn't a stick of furniture there. There is wallpaper not hung. The place hasn't even been cleaned, like a 12,000 square foot home that the cleaning crew hasn't come in yet. Like, Billy looks at me and he says, there is not a chance there is 100 people coming to that house on Saturday. Like, I don't even know if the refrigerator is plugged in. And you're just, your brain is just like, really? like, you couldn't have just called us and said, like, and I get it. There's a moment where you're like, I've been, plugging for this date for 6 weeks. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. But, we're all busy. If you called us on Monday and said, I don't need it this week, the whole thing, this guy didn't show up, that guy didn't show up, and you showing up doesn't make it. And Billy was upset putting the drapes up because the house hasn't been cleaned yet. He's like, I just put $75,000 worth of drapes in a dirty house. Like, what the heck is wrong with this picture, right? But it does. And so those types of things obviously have happened throughout the years. And so I'm always so cognizant when I turn around and I want to tell one of my fabricators when I need something. And when that date changes, like, I rally here. I'm like, did we let this workroom know? Did we let the upholsterer know that we now don't need it next Tuesday, that we have 3 more weeks? And sometimes they look back at me and they're like, well, what's the difference? I mean, if he's going to get it done, he's going to get it done. I said, give him the choice. Let him know that we will take it for next Thursday as we asked for it. But if he's got other high, fire alarm fires on his plate, he's got 3 more weeks if he wants it. Like, so, yeah.
Totally. Well, and I think, like, obviously those are your ethics and standards, and I have similar and my list of things. And I think that's also why hiring people who are aligned with those values is so important, because you can't be there overseeing every conversation. But I think things that I think are basic, like treating people with respect, always saying thank you when someone helps you. If you have to give constructive feedback, doing it in a calm and professional way, even if you're really pissed off. I think making sure that that's happening with your vendors is so important, because if people don't want to work with you because you do exactly that, then it just makes your job difficult.
Well, and that's the truth too, is because every one of us has been in a situation where, because of someone else's actions, we are going to look at our particular client and have to disappoint them, right? So whether one of my vendors lets me down and I have to let down a designer, or, I let you down and then you have to tell your client, right? And the thing is, so we all know that you have got to be kidding me with this right now. There's no way I can tell this client this. This is going to be the end of the world. And we know that situation. But the person...
I feel like that's been the last 2 years.
Right?
Everything
oh my God, that's why I'm the CCO now at WindowWorks, the Chief Complaint Officer. That's like totally who I am. But the thing is, it's like... just human to human, it's inappropriate to indulge yourself in the histrionics, the hystericalness, I should say, the hystericalness of it. But, if you think you're going to, like, do business with me again tomorrow and the next day, you probably need to, like, take a chill pill before you call me. Like you just, like, I know that, like, I might be so super disappointed. Our upholsterer actually did just let us down for a big job, for a designer. And Kim and I just looked at each other. She's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, oh my God, right? But I've known this guy 30 years. Like, have a little, like, thought to, is this the normal MO? Do I really think that this is what he thinks is okay? Or was this unavoidable to him as well? And that doesn't mean that I don't call up and say, hey, buddy, you got us up a tree here. So I get it. But give me the date, because I can't call and say I'm not making it and not give a date, right? So but I'm not going to call and scream and yell like I want to, because I got to talk to him again next week. Like, and if I want him to care about me and my account and what we do here, then I got to remember he's a human person too, right?
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah. And it's been a stressful couple years for everyone. And I feel like all we've been doing for the last 2 years is delivering bad news to clients. If this shipment's delayed, the crate didn't arrive, whatever. And some things aren't in our control, but anything that is our control, like how we conduct ourselves with our partners, we try and control it, because otherwise, you end up on the list with people and they don't want to work with you.
It's true. And, sometimes, I wouldn't say who, but some people hold grudges.
But it's like that. I find it with clients too. The clients who treat us with respect and kindness, we want to work extra hard for. And we all have those clients where you want to roll your eyes every time you see their name pop up on your phone.
Right.
And you still work hard, but it's a lot easier to want to work harder for people
That's
who
right.
are treating you well. So we try and treat all of our partners like that as well.
Yeah, so good, so smart. So it's hard to believe you're only in business 6 years, lady. You got it locked down. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So the other
Been a
thing that,
wild ride.
right. One of the other things that you mentioned to me, and it intrigued me, was why you shouldn't get lazy sourcing. So I don't know that I've ever had that conversation. I mean, I've had the conversation. I should say that had the conversation on how, if you don't know how to source, that you practice on your time. Just like, I always say Derek Jeter goes to baseball practice. He doesn't just show up and expect to hit home runs. My husband keeps reminding me I have to start saying Aaron Judge now, because probably nobody knows who Derek Jeter is, right? He's like, Lou, Aaron Judge, Aaron Judge.
I only know who Derek Jeter is and not the other one. So obviously I'm talking to the right demographic.
So, but talk to me about that. Why is that? I mean, something that you felt important enough to put as a point that you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, so this is kind of off brand of the community conversation, but it is something that is a big part of my design ethos is sourcing. I mean, I'm obsessed with sourcing. I love doing it. I would do it all day, every day for free. I love it so much. Obviously, I have to make money, so I don't do it for free, but so it is for sure a passion of mine. And to your point with the baseball players practicing on their day offs, this is something that when we talk to clients about our fee structure and we talk about our procurement fee or our markup or whatever you want to call it, sometimes people question that and say, well, why? I'm paying you for your time and then I'm paying this percentage on goods. And I say, well, do you know how much time we spend that's not billable to any client, going to trade shows, going to showrooms, just researching new vendors, finding local artists, all the stuff that brings you the best of the best and things that are unique. That takes time, and we are running a business and I have employees to pay. So that's what that cost covers. But I'm kind of digressing. But to the lazy sourcing thing, I think something that has really contributed to any success that we've had as a firm, and I think it's something our clients have commented on, is that every project has a different flavor and we're not reusing the same items over and over again. And I think, obviously there's some basic pieces that are go-tos that we use a lot, but once we've used a certain chair a couple of times, I tell our designers, please do not use this chair again, because our clients are paying us a lot of money to bring them something very unique. It's a luxury service. And it really kills me when I see designers doing the same thing in every single project. Because I do kind of think it's lazy, and I understand the business end of it, that it's more efficient. You can be more profitable if you're reusing a lot of the same pieces. But I think something that's kept our business growing is that our clients feel like when they come to us, they're going to get something fresh. And that's not always easy to do, but I feel so strongly about it that, we really try and find unique pieces for each client, even though they might have the same, crate and barrel sectional that's in a few other projects or whatever, but having a lot of other pieces that are these key pieces that are unique to them and also unique to the market, like something that, we've maybe found from a small artisanal shop in Mexico or something like a very under the radar brand. And then they have these spaces that feel very special to them, and, they don't go to their neighbor's house and see the same 10 things. So that's something we're always constantly working towards and striving towards, is just really taking the time to develop our little black book of vendors. And even if it's not right for a current project, saving that and sharing it with our team, saying hey, just found this great new artist out of wherever, and add it to your files for another project. So yeah.
I mean, I think it's terrific. I do understand the pull of going to the go-tos, right? Because like you said, it streamlines the process, it streamlines the efficiencies and so forth. But you're right, it does take away something in the mind of, the consumer who is thinking, is this like everything else? It's funny because this goes back, oh my goodness, 35 years ago. So this designer is long retired. But I did this one designer's work for about 10 or 15 years. And when I tell you, literally every job was like you could just pluck one room out of one person's house and put it in the other person's house. I mean, the accessories were a little different, here and there, but literally same window treatments, same colors. There was like 3 colors that this design firm used, and sometimes the color was on the wall and sometimes it was on the floor, and sometimes in the other room it was on the wall and the floor, but it was vice versa. But I remember, and the crazy thing is it was in all of the projects of this firm were in like a 20-mile radius of our area, and it used to, like, we'd sit here and be like, don't, like, these people know each other. Their one is referring the other. Like, don't they go to each other's houses and think, hey, your living room looks like my living room. Your bedroom looks like my bedroom, right? I mean, it was crazy. And literally every room looked beautiful. But you guys know me. I don't pay attention to the pretty. Even I could see that the rooms were the same. I was just like, and it was just funny. And way back in the day, did I think about these things from a business standpoint? Not what, not that. I just couldn't. At that point, I just couldn't believe that the firm could get away with it. It just was shocking because I had many, many, many conversations with these clients of this firm because, the firm would do the bedroom and then 6 or 8 months later would be the living room. And so I was back and forth to these people's homes and got to know them as well. And I knew that they were friends with each other, and it took everything I had not to say, don't you care that your bedroom is just like your friend Susie's bedroom? Like, what is this? Like the headboard was different, but like, I'm sorry, everything else is the same. So, that's an extreme version of it, but I do know what you mean. Like, if there's 20 elements, there are firms that are fine with repeating maybe 25 or 30% of the elements, you know what I mean? Not 75% like this old firm did. But, to your point, you are teaching your team that your culture is that you're going to be looking for unique, not just saying unique.
Yeah, and I think, for some firms, maybe that's their goal, is just putting through projects. And I'm sure some clients like that. You go to a firm who does projects that all look the same, what you're going to be getting, and that's what you want. And that's great.
True too.
Definitely, that's not our company for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think for me, wanting to continue growing my business and growing the projects and the caliber of projects, I just don't think you can be charging people for a premium for a service if you're not giving them something special and unique in a luxury space. I wouldn't feel right about that. So,
yeah. Well, and it's what your philosophy is, and your name's on the door.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And then the other point I wanted to cover that you mentioned was this need that you have and the importance you place on constant evolution, both in your creative, endeavors, but also on the business side of what you do day to day. Tell us a little bit about this philosophy, Gillian.
Yeah, so I think that looking to always grow is just so important, and in life and in business. And on the creative side, it's kind of what we were just talking about and quite frankly, once we've done something, I'm like, well, we've done that. I'm bored of it. Let's try something new. I want to do something different. But always trying to grow and be different there is important. And I think also helps to set our work apart. And, we love trends and everyone loves trends, but I think following them too closely gets you into trouble, and we want to create spaces that are timeless. And I think by continuing to create unique spaces, they're sort of timeless in their own way. But on the business side of things, I think one thing I really learned over the last sort of 2 to 3 years is we have had a lot of rapid growth, both in the size of the company and in the number of projects we're taking on and the types of projects. And things that were working for me on an operational level 2 years ago or 3 years ago no longer work, because we've grown and it's different. And I think having awareness of that, and say, like, being okay with change, even though it's scary, it is important. And I think looking at things and saying, just like when you look at an employee and your gut's telling you this isn't working, I think looking at your business and when your gut's telling you this isn't working anymore, listen to it and find another way to do things, because, my business has changed and the world has changed. So I think constantly trying to evolve not just the creative side of your business, but the operational side is so important, because you can come up with the most stunning designs, but if you can't handle the operational side, then you're hooped. So,
Yeah. 100%. Whole reason for why I get up every day and do this. 100%. And
totally.
as I've gone through the evolution of my own companies, I know exactly what you're saying. The things that got you to your first, million, the things that got you to the first 500,000 rarely will get you to your first million. And then from that million to 2 million, and then from 2 million to say 4 million, and then 4 million to 6, and then 6 to 10. That's what I've noticed between my own experience at Window Works and also the community that we have at Exciting Windows, because there we have quite a few firms that are 6 million, 13, 14, 15 million. And it's just for, the big aha for us was the having a really well run, well systemized, documented systems and process at Window Works. And what took us to our first, we managed to have those systems and process for the most part take us to our first 3 million, because we were so heavily processed in systems. A lot of times, you kind of get to your first 1.5 million without a lot of process and system, with some but not a lot, and then you straighten up and you go okay, and then you get to 3. So we got to 3. But I'll tell you what, this Mr. Toad's wild ride from 3 to 6 million has been insane.
And how do you, like, when something has to change within your business? This is a selfish question for myself, but who do you look to for that guidance? Or how do you figure out, something needs to change, and that's the easy part. It's figuring out what the exact change is, and then implementing it is the harder part. So how do you do that with your business?
Well, you know what? To your whole reason for your conversation today, community. So for us, we have Exciting Windows. My husband and Billy and myself bought Exciting Windows a 1.5 years ago. And Exciting Windows is a membership of window treatment retailers. And we've got community members there that are doing $150,000 a year. And as I said, we have firms doing 13, 14, 15 million. And I firmly sit my fanny down next to the guys and women in our community that are right ahead of us on the curve. So when we were doing 3 million, I made sure that we were always sitting next to my friend Mr. Rick Baker and picking his brain because he was at 5. Now we're headed to 6 and Rick is headed to 9. But Rick sits next to Oliver, who's doing 13. And then what I love to do is turn around and sit next to the men and women that are, doing up to 3 million. So I have conversations with those that are in their first 500,000-600,000, and then different types of conversation with those that are hitting their first 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. And it is the community, because you can, and by the way, I'm an avid audiobook listener. So Mike Michalowicz's books, Clockwork and Fix This Next and Pumpkin something or other, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That's another one I just listened to. Patrick, somebody
You'll have to add these to the show notes.
Yeah, I will. I will. And I'm like, and Traction. And when I tell you my audiobook library It's a lot like what the listeners, what, our colleagues say to me in the emails. I listened to this particular episode way back when it came out. And then when you mentioned it, 2 years later, I went back and listened to it again and I learned something completely different from it. And that's
Mm.
because you hear what you need to hear at the time. And so I have this audio bookshelf library that as I'm headed down to the beach on Thursday nights and back up on Monday mornings at 7 in the morning, I'm like, which one should I listen to today? And I listen to them over and over, a chapter here, 5 chapters there, because I hear something different each time. And so I firmly believe that you need to have, to answer your question concisely, you need to absolutely follow the good business practices for a successful operational practice. To your point, the operational practice has to be set down. And then as you bust up and you grow, it's so much easier to be in community, in a relationship with somebody that has figured out the growing pains of the next level, because I'll figure them out. Vinny and I and Billy, we're smart. We'll figure it out. But do I need to take 3 years to figure it out? Or can I sit down with somebody who's done it before and, really talk to them about it? And this is the premise of my Power Talk Friday tours. It is the premise of LuAnn University. It's why LuAnn University is taught live and not a download. It would be easy to make them downloads, but then you don't get the benefit of talking to your peers and talking to the instructor who is ahead of you on the curve. And you also miss the opportunity, to your point, to make the relationship with them. You make a relationship with somebody in a Power Talk Friday tour or a LuAnn University course, and now you take it to the next step. You start emailing, and then you start calling, and then you start meeting at market. And now you have that built-in, you're ahead of me on the curve, or you're a little behind me on the curve, and I would love to share my help and my wisdom with you. So, yeah, you asked the question that your whole podcast is the answer to, Gillian.
Well, I love it. Came full circle.
Yes, definitely, definitely. It's be a good human, and good humans will find you, and you'll be happy, and they'll be happy to be with you,
I
right?
totally think so. I think what goes around comes around. And just like you're saying, I mean, I look to other designers who are more established for support. And then
Mm-hmm.
when younger designers who are only 1 year in come to me, I'm an open book and tell
Mm-hmm.
them, this did not work for me. Don't try this, or buyer beware. Try it at your own risk. Or
Exactly. Right. Sometimes we have to go through our own pains. I mean, I've done it. I've ignored somebody's advice and then went, huh.
totally.
Okay, right? Or watch somebody ignore my advice and say, all right, do it the hard way, sweetie. That's fine. You'll figure it out. Right. But
Yeah.
it is great when you do have the opportunity to, and you create the opportunity for yourself to get into relationships that are in this circle of caring and giving and support. And I just think it's awesome. And I appreciate you so much, Gillian, coming on today and really in such a meaningful way highlighting the power of relationships and community in all the levels that it hits us, as you described, in our own firm, with our clients, with our vendors and trades, and then finally amongst ourselves peer to peer. So,
Yeah.
hashtag smart lady,
Oh.
Gillian. Thank you.
Well, thank you. No, I think it's just so important. And we try and bring that even to our greater community by doing pro bono work. And we're working in a very elitist profession, and we're so fortunate to be working on these very exciting projects, but not everyone can do that. And so I think giving back to your community in other ways too is just so important. And I do think karma is real. So I think, it's important that I think as an industry, we look to the greater community outside of our own industry and think about how we can use our skills to help other people who don't have access to that, or maybe can't afford to hire a designer or design a house or anything like that. So
That's really cool. I think I might have to have you back and you'll tell us how you do that, because I'm sure you just piqued. Yeah, you probably just piqued the ears of a lot of your colleagues, thinking how would you run a pro bono situation and make sure it still doesn't affect your own bottom line, and la la la, and how do you remunerate your employees when they do all that. So my brain just went to 20 questions, but I'll save it for another interview.
Drop that one at the end for you.
Yeah. So that's like a definitely got to come back. Well, thank you so much for today. I appreciate it, Gillian.
Thank you. Yeah, it was such an honor to get to speak with you, and now that you're a connection of mine, now you'll be hearing from me, bugging you, trying to develop a relationship to get advice.
That's a good thing.
Okay, thanks, LuAnn.
You're welcome. Having a collaborative team is very important to Gillian, and I think we'd agree it's important to all of us, right? When you have this, you know it because it feels different, right? And I'll tell you, hiring and forming a collaborative, dynamic team, it doesn't happen by accident. But my cousin Eileen and my co-author in the Power Talk Friday books, she knows the difference. And she says when you are doing what you were born to do, and this doesn't just mean you, it means everybody that works with you. When you are doing what you are born to do and you're happy in your role and you want to be there, you want to work together for the good of the company, the project, and the clients. This is when the magic happens. Eileen wrote an entire book about it called Do the Job You Were Born to Do. We'll put the book in the show notes. It's an exceptional book. And if you or someone you know is sort of wondering, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? This is a very helpful book to help you suss that out for yourself, right? Now, one of the things that Gillian does to strengthen her team is to have Monday meetings and Monday check-ins, right? But she mentioned they also have that happy hour at the end of the week where they open a bottle of wine and talk about how the week went. They share their resources and they just hang out together. No rules, just creating that company culture. It reminds me of when Laura Umansky was on the show and she shared that she had Champagne Fridays, okay? Laura's on the show 2 times. Both were outstanding, but it was in her first show that she talked about this ritual in her company too, right? We'll put links to both of her shows in the show notes. I love how these women are creating that support, comfort, and collaboration right within their own company. Gillian talked about how her clients are as important to her as her employees. And we all know that we're not going to go out and clink glasses with every client, right? That could get awkward. But Gillian described how she learned the key to this is to manage people's expectations and set up your business ground rules. Great things to do in my book, no matter if you desire to have wine with your clients or not, right? Because when you cross into the friend zone, your contract and agreements cannot go out the door, right? Maintaining professionalism and protocols are important because at the end of the day, your clients are paying for a professional service. It is critical that you exemplify this behavior, that you do this leadership of this behavior so that you can expect it from your clients in return. All right. Gillian also cultivates a positive relationship with her vendors. I can't agree with this enough. The most valued quality I have experienced with my vendors over the years, and when I've been a vendor as well, is honesty. Okay. This is a partnership. Our relationship with the vendor transcends one client, right? One project. We are in it together, hopefully for years to come. So strong values surrounding honesty, teamwork, and collaboration are the foundation for longevity with your partners and your trades. In terms of creating community with your peers, well, I think you know where I stand with this, right? And Gillian stands in that same lane with me. Having designer friends who can relate to what you're going through in the only way who's someone who does what you do can know what you're going through is incredibly valuable, right? Having each other for support in good times and tough times is priceless. And this came up in our after air conversation. But I wanted to mention to you that Gillian is also creating community within her civic community. She explained to me how she is actively doing pro bono work for nonprofits in her area. She recently designed space for the Face of Today Foundation. This is another benefit with many layers. She, on one hand, is impacting lives of people who normally could not have a professionally designed space, right? She is also creating friendships with the organizers, and her greater community learns of her business, and her values. That's a home run, right? The last point in our discussion is the need to be consistently and constantly evolving, to be open to the change and to listen to your intuition. Listen to your inside voice, your goddess voice. He or she will never steer you wrong. If you love this idea of community and you want to create community for yourself, especially of your peers that will support you, guide you, cheer you on, pick you up when you need it, I highly encourage you to attend one of my Power Talk Friday tours. The next one is a bit different. This particular Power Talk Friday event is restricted to multiple million-dollar firms. I know from personal experience the challenge that you are navigating after you hit 2, 3, and 4, and 5 million are absolutely different than when you were building your company from startup. So if this is you, then please join us on October 21st, 2022 in High Point. We will start at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and so that means you're going to need to get into town on Thursday night. Go to powertalkfriday.com to learn more about this very special, very unique event. Seats are limited. Don't miss out. If you know this is for you, pull the trigger, all right? And if you're not at this level yet, multiple millions, no worries. I will be doing this again. I've done it 5 or 6 times already. I will be doing this again, and we will go back to opening it up to all levels. All right. Thank you, Gillian, for sharing the power of relationships on every level of our business. And thank you so much for listening. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.